It's a holiday, come on, celebrate and rejoice. It's Kwanzaa, spreading unity in our families and communities. It's Kwanzaa, because our legacy makes us so strong. Yeah. So let us come together to celebrate this season of Kwanzaa. To reflect upon our past, we've come so far, remembering all of those who came before us on Kwanzaa, from Rosa to Malcolm to Dr. King and Turner, yeah, from Du Bois to Ashanti Wall, we honor you on Kwanzaa. It is Kwanzaa, yeah, it's time to celebrate. Economic opportunity, yeah. Purpose is what we need, and creativity. Faith is what we really need. Moja, yeah. Fuji chocolate, Ujama, Nia.
Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of San Miguel de Allende, a great place to be on Sunday mornings, and a great place today for celebrating and learning more about the tradition of Kwanzaa. My name is Paula Peace, and I serve as chair of your Sunday Service Committee. No matter where you come from, what religious tradition you celebrate or not, you are welcome here. Today, I'd like to share words which deserve to be honored and remembered, the mission statement of this fellowship. Our mission is to serve the Spirit as each individual understands it, to serve the educational and pastoral needs of our own community, and to serve our multicultural community through actions that further social justice. May it be so. It's my privilege today to introduce the speaker. She is Ayanna Kafi Stringer, a young religious professional in our UU denomination, and someone who I believe represents the UU future. Ayanna currently serves as the national president of DRUM, or Diverse Revolutionary UU Multicultural Ministries, and She is the Youth Ministries Coordinator at the UU Congregation of Atlanta, where she grew up and where I keep an active membership. A lifelong UU, Ayanna also grew up celebrating Kwanzaa in her family as their sole festival in December. After hearing from Dan and Tom in just a few moments, we will present a video on the story of Kwanzaa, followed by Ayanna lighting the Kwanzaa candles with her family in Atlanta. They are Ayanna's dad, Tony Stringer, who is a lay minister at the Atlanta UU congregation, also a clinical neuropsychologist and professor at the Emory University School of Medicine. And Tony is a gifted speaker who will be leading our service right here on January 17th. Also participating lighting candles will be Ayanna's mom, Sakai Stringer, a Buddhist who teaches meditation, Tai Chi, and Qigong, and Ayanna's 13-year-old daughter, Amara Hemphill. Welcome to the Stringer family. After they have lit their Kwanzaa candles, we'll have a time for all ages, with Ayanna retelling the story of the book and Oscar-winning short film, Hair Love. And now to our fellowship's president, Dr. Dan Neuspiel.
Good morning. I add my welcome to all of you joining us today, wherever you are. We invite you to look in today's order of service for announcements of activities and membership information. The same information appears in our weekly newsletter, along with interesting articles about our busy fellowship. If you're not already on our mailing list, please send a note to Denise at the address in the chat box. You may also be interested in joining our Google listserv and our YouTube channel, which has videos of our services that you can share with friends and family. At our newly redesigned website, you may sign in to our Zoom services, see the order of service, donate to our fellowship, or link to our YouTube channel. Closed captioning is now available for those who find it helpful. Look for CC Live transcript on your screen to activate it. To adjust the size of the print, go to Settings and then Accessibility. You may drag the captions anywhere on the screen. Our breakout discussions are great places to reflect on this service with old and new friends. Just stay connected after the postlude music ends, and you'll be randomly assigned to a room. If only one or two people show up in your room, sit tight for a minute, and I'll move you to a larger group. Near the end of the service, we'll post a question to kick off your discussion. If you're a new visitor, we invite you to delay accepting your breakout room assignment so our minister and membership team can chat with you for a few minutes in our main room. And now a few thoughts from our COVID-19 task force, a group of health professionals and care team members with expertise we hope will be helpful during this pandemic. We know many of us have loosened up on some of our safety practices over the holidays, yet the pandemic continues to worsen. Now that we see effective vaccines on the horizon, it's time to renew our strongest precautions. We also know of some members whose housekeepers have contracted COVID-19, so we have a few suggestions. If possible, the best choice is to send your housekeeper home for the remainder of the pandemic and continue to pay them. If you must continue to have them in your home, try to be out of the house when they're there. If you must be there, wear an N95 mask and supply one to the housekeeper to wear. Stay in a room separate from where they're working, and keep windows open and a fan running to increase air circulation, which we know reduces the spread of the virus. Review with your housekeeper on a regular basis how they can stay safe, including how they are traveling to your home, and be sure they know to stay home if they are sick even with simple cold symptoms. Friends, if we stay vigilant, we can make it through the end of this difficult period. And now to Tom.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Tom Rossiello, the Minister of the Fellowship, and I too would like to add my personal welcome to all of you this morning. We are so glad to have you all with us. I also want to personally welcome Ayanna Kafi Stringer, our guest speaker. We are so grateful that you agreed to share your Season of Light tradition with us. This morning's service is our fifth in a series of 6 Sunday services with a uniting theme. We've labeled the series The Season of Light. Each Sunday, we engage with one of the holidays celebrated at this time of year, which uses rituals of light and the symbolism of light to both celebrate and convey its message. Each week, I or a guest like Ayanna or some members of our fellowship who celebrate that particular tradition share their insight into their tradition's holiday. Also, we are enriched by the beautiful music that each of these holidays has inspired. Thus far, we've celebrated Diwali, Advent, Hanukkah, Solstice, Christmas, and today Kwanzaa. Next week, we'll celebrate the Epiphany, or Three Kings Day, as it's called here in Mexico. There's so much that we can draw from the different and varied traditions, and at the same time embrace the threads of universal teachings that run through and connect so many of these holidays to each other and to our own Unitarian Universalist history, traditions, and principles. At this time of year especially, we are drawn into the practices of the season, and there is no religious practice more ancient and more common than the lighting of candles, lamps, fires. No religious metaphor more universal and more frequently used than that of the light. Light representing hope and expectation. Light that continues to burn even when the oil is low. Light that celebrates justice and freedom. Light helping us to see more clearly and remind us of who we are and the values and principles that guide our journey. And light just marking our time of celebration with joy. Be it a candle or an oil lamp, a Yule log or a bonfire, a star in the sky or the sun beginning its return journey. This symbolism of light is central to the celebration of all the holidays at this time of year. As we do each week, we begin our service with the common religious practice of lighting a flame to create our sacred time and place. We recognize that it is with a spark of the divine that is in each of us that we light a common flame. The flaming chalice represents our Unitarian Universalist tradition, a tradition that welcomes and includes the light of so many traditions. After I light our chalice, I invite you to join in reciting the Season of Light chalice lighting words, which will then appear on your screen. Candles, lamps, fire, and stars. These are the symbols of this season. Candles and lamps to mark our days of celebration and to dispel the darkness. Fires to drive away the winter chill and warm hearth and home. Stars to fill us with wonder and guide us on our sacred journey. And now we will learn more about Kwanzaa, the newest of the Season of Light traditions, from this informative video.
Kwanzaa, that celebration that coincides with Christmas and Hanukkah. You may have even been to a Kwanzaa celebration. In the 80s and 90s, Kwanzaa was everywhere. But do you really know what this holiday is about and why it started? Let's jump back a few decades. In 1965, tensions between black communities and law enforcement reached a boiling point, and Los Angeles saw the most violent urban riot in 20 years. As the Watts riots unfolded around him, LA-based PhD student and activist Maulana Karenga saw an opportunity to restore unity in black communities and foster African American cultural institutions, values, and traditions. So in 1966, Karenga created Kwanzaa, with the purpose to help connect black Americans to their African roots and with each other in the face of marginalization. In fact, the name Kwanzaa even comes from a Swahili phrase, matunda ya Kwanzaa, meaning first fruits. Karenga decided that this new holiday should fall in the 7-day period between Christmas and New Year's. He even added a second A on the end of Kwanzaa to represent each of these 7 days. Each day represents a different principle: unity, self-determination, collective responsibility, cooperative economics, purpose, creativity, and faith. During Kwanzaa, Karenga wanted communities to celebrate by gathering together to light candles and to join in a huge communal feast called Karamu, inspired by a Zulu harvest celebration. Every celebration is different, but generally, families come together to light a kinara, read poetry, and dance to traditional African songs. Karenga traveled the country spreading the word about this new holiday. It then gained momentum through schools and colleges, and pretty soon, families started adopting Kwanzaa into their yearly celebrations. At first, many African American Christians were opposed to Kwanzaa, as they didn't want it to be a replacement for Christmas. But as Kwanzaa became more popular in the late 1960s, black churches began to embrace it, and the holiday became a supplement rather than an alternative to Christmas. Some churches even organized Kwanzaa celebrations. But Kwanzaa really took off in the 1970s as the black middle class started to grow. After the 1964 Civil Rights Act outlawed race-based discrimination in employment, the number of African American middle-income earners increased dramatically and continued to grow into the 1980s and 90s. As black families started to move into white suburban areas, they began to feel isolated, and Kwanzaa became a way for them to reconnect to their history and culture. By 1995, the holiday was celebrated by an estimated 10 million Americans, compared to just a few hundred when it was founded. With Kwanzaa's cemented popularity, it didn't take long for corporate America to notice. By the mid-1990s, an entire industry had formed around the holiday. Companies like Heineken even created an advertisement around Kwanzaa's 7 principles. The slogan read, "Unity, purpose, creativity, faith. Heineken beer is proud to celebrate Kwanzaa and everything it stands for." This was something that Karenga had specifically sought to avoid, saying the challenge for the African people is to avoid the problems of commercialization that they've learned from other holidays like Christmas. In fact, one of the 7 principles of Kwanzaa is the importance of a self-sustaining, cooperative economy between African Americans, one that emphasizes black-owned businesses and discourages mass commercialization. But Kwanzaa's mass marketing appeal was somewhat short-lived. By the mid-2000s, paraphernalia started to disappear from shelves, and many adherents abandoned the holiday as a yearly tradition. Today, only 2% of Americans are believed to celebrate Kwanzaa, despite the fact that African Americans now make up 13% of the population. After 5 decades, Kwanzaa still stands as an important reminder of the historic challenges that Black America has overcome, and it still remains a uniting force for millions.
I will light candles this season.
Umoja, a candle for the unity that binds us to one another.
Candles of joy, despite all sadness.
Kujichagulia, a candle affirming our right to self-determination.
Candles of hope, where despair keeps watch.
Ujima, a candle to remind us of our responsibility to one another.
Candles of grace, to ease heavy burdens.
Ujama, a candle to remind us of the blaze we create when our passions unite.
Candles of courage, where fear is ever present.
Nia, a candle symbolizing our strength of purpose and the courage of our conviction.
Candles of peace for tempest-tossed days.
Kuumba, a candle for the creative spirit from which all life flows.
candles of love to inspire all my living.
Imani, a candle for the faith we have in ourselves, in one another, and in the living spirit of which we are all a part.
Candles to burn all the year long.
Harambe! Ashe!
The difference between the lived experience of a UU and the lived experience of a Christian is most glaringly that we don't have a holy book. This leaves us cobbling together stories and holy lessons from the news, literature, sacred texts from around the world, as well as our own lives. We create meaning by holding the lens of covenant and principle up to these stories. Congregational polity, or the individual church's right to choose for themselves, is more than making our own rules, more than choosing our own ministers. It's also about weaving together a collection of stories that inspire our unique congregational journeys. Those stories serve as communication for our collective values to both visitors and reflecting them back to ourselves. Time for all ages is when everyone in the community is imparted with the same lesson. I submit this next piece to the mosaic of this fellowship's sacred texts. Hair Love by Matthew A. Cherry, adapted by Ayanna Kafi Stringer. Zuri has a head full of long, thick, curly hair. She loves how versatile it is. From braids with beads to afro puffs, there's nothing her hair can't do. On a very special morning, Zuri woke up early, all by herself, tiptoed past an exhausted dad, into the bathroom, with Rocky the cat. She decided that since it was such a special day, she needed special hair to match. She pulled up her mother's YouTube channel and started following a hair tutorial. Zuri's dad walked in just in time for the big reveal. Yikes. Dad assured Zuri that he could help. He grabbed some product, some tools, and set to work. Double yikes. From rubber bands popping to hair dominating the pick, the perfect style just wasn't coming together. I can relate. Finally, Zuri's dad pulled a winter hat down over her head, hoping that this would be the end. Zuri burst into tears. Fortunately, Zuri's clever. She showed Dad the YouTube tutorial. He concentrated, brushed, parted, oiled, and twisted. Finally, Dad was finished, and Zuri's hair looked incredible. If I didn't previously mention, it was a special day. This was the day that Zuri's mom came home from the hospital. Mom, the YouTube natural hair star, had gone bald from chemo. When she arrived, her head was covered in a beautiful silk scarf. She hugged Zuri in the way that only someone who truly loves you can. She admired Zuri's beautiful hairstyle, a style that Mom had created herself. and Zuri handed her a hand-drawn picture of a woman with a shiny, brown, bald head with a crown on top. If you listen closely, clever young Zuri was explaining the significance of black hair. That while it's beautiful, it's not the source of beauty. It's culturally significant. It's a connector from where you've been to where you're going. But that's not where beauty, or even worth, is sprung from. The joy of homecoming after the pain of hospitalization is beauty. Wearing your past unapologetically is beauty. And looking at yourself through the eyes of a child can also be where you find your beauty.
Look at her hair, look at her braids, look at her eyes, look at her nose, look at her fro. But it's all upon me. Look at her face, look at her skin. It's either too dark or it's too light. Her complexion's not right, but it's all upon me. Who are you to say that I'm not beautiful? It's your own insecurity. Because I know and I believe my black is beautiful, beautiful. My black is beautiful. My black is beautiful, beautiful. Whoa, whoa. Look at her size, look at her weight. She is too curvy, she is too slim, or even too thin. She's too thin, but it's all upon me. Hear how she talks, what does she mean? She has an accent I don't understand, I can't comprehend. But it's all upon me. Who are you to say that I'm not beautiful? It's your own insecurity. Because I know and I believe my black is beautiful, beautiful. My black is beautiful. My black is beautiful, beautiful. Whoa, whoa. My black is beautiful, beautiful, so beautiful. My black is beautiful, beautiful. Whoa, whoa. In life, there's one thing you should remember: that love of self is more precious than anything else. Precious than anything else. In life, there's one thing you should remember: that love of self is more precious than anything else. Precious than anything else. In life, there's one thing you should remember: my hair, my cheeks, my eyes, my nose, everything about me. More precious than anything else. My skin, my size, my hairs, my fro. In life, there's one thing you should remember: that love of self is more precious than anything else. So precious. My black is beautiful, beautiful. My black is beautiful, beautiful. Whoa, whoa. My black is beautiful, beautiful, so beautiful. My black is beautiful, beautiful.
Please join us in reading our spoken covenant, which should appear on your screen. We respect the interdependent web of life and work for a just and peaceful world. We encourage the search for truth and meaning, strive for compassion in our relationships, and seek out values that will benefit our lives and the lives of others. This is our covenant.
Respetamos todos los estilos de vida dentro de su red interdependiente y trabajamos por un mundo justo y pacífico. Alentamos la búsqueda de la verdad y la comprensión total. Nos esforzamos por mantener compasión en nuestras relaciones y buscamos valores que beneficien nuestras vidas y las vidas de los demás. Este es nuestro convenio.
We now enter into a very sacred time in our service, a time when each week members and friends share significant joys, sorrows, or concerns with their community. If you would like to share one of these in a future service, please email it to me and I'll be happy to do so on your behalf. If you have one you'd like to share today and you've not sent it in, you may type it into the chat now. Our first candle is lit by Dory Beach and is for her friend Jai Singh, who is having surgery for pancreatic cancer. We send him healing thoughts and prayers. We light this candle, sending our good thoughts to Lydia Jane Failing, who is home, resting comfortably and getting the care that she needs. This candle of joy is from Deanna Amaya. Her brother Antonio is getting married today, and we join her in sending him and his wife the best of joys. Again this week, we light a candle of sorrow for the increasing numbers of lives lost to COVID, of concern for the rising numbers of infections and hospitalizations, and of hope for the quick distribution of the vaccine. We light this related candle of concern for all those who have been disproportionately impacted by the virus, the poor, the unemployed, people of color, and all those suffering not just physically, but economically from this serious situation. This week we say goodbye to 2020, a year of such struggle and pain, and we welcome 2021. This is a candle of hope for the new year. Finally, we light a candle for all those joys, sorrows, and concerns that have been typed into the chat, and for those held deep in our heart, but which remain unspoken this morning. We hold all of them in our thoughts and prayers, sharing in the joys, seeking the courage to honestly face our own challenges, and the resolve to support, comfort, and assist those experiencing difficult times, remembering always the blessings of religious community.
This is our time for growing through our generosity. It has been said that Buddha told us that a generous heart, kind speech, and a life of service and compassion are the things which renew humanity. I like to think that after the challenges of this past year in particular, our new normal will be a renewal of humanity. And I know that we will all have a part to play in building this new normal. We all have been and continue to be renewing humanity in our individual ways, large and small. We also do it together as a spiritual fellowship. Year end is a great time to reflect on what our collective financial giving means to our UU and to our San Miguel communities. Most of you know everyone in our fellowship gives of themselves much of the time. And most of you know that we always give a full half of our annual financial resources to help support a variety of local educational opportunities and life sustainability activities, like educational opportunities, like nutrition, housing, health, water, and the environment. We also support our members, friends, and visitors by providing weekly services, get-togethers, comfort, sharing of ideas, and a caring community. Our Zoom services and many other activities are wonderful ways to stay connected. We shouldn't forget, however, that we are not currently passing the collection basket every week, and that we all can be jointly generous in closing the gap an empty basket creates by making online donations. We are all in this together. So we will pause here and ask you to connect to our donation link, which you'll find in the chat box, or to take a minute and go to our website, ufsma.org. You can use a debit card, credit card, or PayPal to leave a contribution. After 90 seconds to share our gifts to the fellowship, we will return to the service with music by Jill Scott, selected by Ayanna Kafi Stringer, to celebrate that Kwanzaa makes us joy-filled. Atlanta restorative yoga teacher Octavia Rahim writes, "When I put down what is not mine to carry, I am free." Jill Scott suggests that her freedom has been sitting on a shelf and can adorn her neck like a chain. Ayanna Kafi lifts up the suggestion that our freedom, liberation, is bound up in one another. Let's all listen to this Black Joy anthem, holding the idea that all of these truths can be correct.
Hey, oh, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. I'm taking my freedom, pulling it off the shelf, putting it on my chain.
My parents were married in June 1977 and celebrated their first Kwanzaa together in 1978. By my first Kwanzaa, my parents were well practiced in their rituals. A Stringer Kwanzaa is fun. It has to be. I know it's not traditional, but we celebrate the most high impact aspects of Kwanzaa on Kwanzaa Eve or Christmas. As a divorced mom, educator turned religious professional, daughter of a neuropsychologist and a retired educator, Christmas Day is the only December day that we can guarantee that we'll both be together and not working. I simply am not off work next week. While I yearn to hold nightly family feasts and meaningful multi-generational activities without the institutional and communal support, this currently isn't possible. In the face of all of that, we choose to make Kwanzaa Eve joyful. Before family feasting, before spending the day weaving in and out of each other's way in the kitchen, directly following the Kinara lighting ritual that I shared earlier, is the gift exchange. We practice giving what is asked for. This serves to prepare each other for the year ahead by giving tangible support, as well as practicing seeing, hearing, and witnessing, and believing each other. Before society caught on to the idea of honoring me, my predictions of what I would need to face the next phase of my life were being honored in my living room. I've received countless books, clothes, craft kits, multi-hued brown dolls, but at 16, I received a pair of brand new combat boots. Some people swear by stilettos, others have power suits, but these boots were the first article of clothing that made me feel truly powerful. In these magical boots, I ran through the cities of Atlanta. I ran through the Atlanta city streets with my friends. I hiked through North Georgia and North Carolina woods. I literally stood my ground in protest and figuratively stood my ground so many times when waging protest in my own life. I'm often asked if the Kwanzaa principles can be connected with the UU principles. I gently suggest the idea of throwing out 7, connecting with 7, and instead dig into the practice of each. Imagine baby activist Ayanna in her freshly broken in boots, telling off an elder for homophobia, then linking arms with a pink-haired UU youth and marching off. That is part of the Kwanzaa spirit as I know it. But isn't that doing UUism as well? Isn't that a bit of both? Kwanzaa is steeped in stories and traditions, but it's still young. Like our faith, it's a living tradition. We are witnessing and taking part in its formation. For me, that means I have the opportunity to imagine into reality a Kwanzaa that fits the specific needs of my family and community. A holiday season that includes community Kinara lightings and a time to reflect on each principle like Blue is creating virtually. I imagine the quality of in-person identity caucuses. I imagine discussion groups focused on arts and literature, textiles, parenting, hair, performances, worship, dinner church, and intentional rest. I dream of a Black UU Kwanzaa because I dream of a UUism that requires less of Black, Indigenous, and people of color. I dream of a UUism that's table is set without requiring us to find a plate, an extra chair, and create room at the table ourselves. I dream of a UUism that doesn't require me to run weary and wounded to my BIPOC siblings, but one that has its heart wide open when faced with its own reflection. I dream of a UUism that I leave better than I found it. I dream of a Black UU Kwanzaa that is not only supported by Black UUs, but is a time for our congregations and faith as a whole to reevaluate and recommit to its Black members and siblings. I'm not going to be vague here. What I'm calling for is a commitment to the exploration of the work around the eighth principle. For a refresher, it states, we, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote journeying toward spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. This is a different kind of principle. It's a principle that offers a covenant within the covenant of the 7 principles, suggesting that a second layer of promise needs to be made, that perhaps all were not already included in the original covenant, that the invitation had not been made, the table left unset, no chairs were waiting, so Black folks who felt the profound pull of this faith created their own space. We covenant to journey towards spiritual wholeness suggests that your liberation is tied up with mine. That when I am unwelcome, unwanted, tokenized, marginalized, unsupported, and exhausted by and in our UU spaces, that you also suffer. The answer to this, as suggested by the 8th principle, is working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community, and that we do so by using accountability in the dismantling of racism and other oppressions, both in the individual self, as in our institutions, our faith communities, and our association. This requires vigilance and resilience of the spirit that not only is acquired by intentional work, but by intentionally seeking out one's own bias and obliterating it with the companions of forgiveness and wisdom. Sometimes it's as simple as instantly offering yourself forgiveness for mispronouncing someone's name, thus allowing yourself space to hear them and their voice. Sometimes it's complex and painful, like seeing a monster in the mirror and allowing yourself to breathe through it, to sit with it. This can be agonizing and lonely. This is the work that ends relationships. This is the work that makes us weird at parties and impossible at holidays. But this is the work of Unitarian Universalism. This work of personal and institutional accountability is how we, as a faith, refuse stagnation. We choose at every availability to turn toward the side of love. And we learn to live in liberation by owning our less than desirable qualities, offering ourselves forgiveness, offering ourselves grace. But maybe you're like me and want to earn your own forgiveness, want proof that you're working towards becoming less complicit. In that case, talk to your people. consider if you're actually ready for ruined relationships in honor of your morals. In 2002, a friend introduced me to a beautiful, highly melanated boy in hopes that there would be a romantic connection. He was the only person of color in their friend group and also the only person to have a nickname that wasn't a variation of their given name. His was the name of an animal. While he went on to star in many memories that still make me smile, we were never more than two brown people who were pushed together at events. I did, however, become his unofficial champion, sparking the end of 3 relationships. One of these relationships was because I refused to stop calling a dear friend's partner out on his explicit and capital R racism. As I remember, he wasn't even safe from my attempts to push him into dialogue at New Year's Eve parties. The friend was forced to choose between me and the partner. They're happily married now, and I'm happy to have ruined that relationship in defense of a boy who was introduced to me as a racial slur. It's hard to be boldly anti-racist. It's even harder to name the systems that are oppressing us all. The first principle of Kwanzaa is umoja, meaning unity. So this might seem like I'm speaking about 2 opposing concepts, but we must remember, no, it's vital that we remember that our liberation is bound up in one another. That the only way forward is to let go of the obsessive individualism and the idea that we are the good ones. There are no good ones because, as Ma Jaya taught, there are no throwaway people. Throw out the idea that being individually good is enough. It's not. We shall be known by the company we keep. Our purpose, our niya, is to save as many people as possible. We are not jumping ship into a life raft. We are saving ourselves from the sinking raft of white supremacy to climb aboard the ship of whatever is next. And the good news of beloved covenantal community is our ladder. I have imani. I have faith. We are not a meek sort. We are capable of staring into the mirror, past the monster, past the walls and diversions, past whatever we are convinced that we have to be in order to survive in our world at large. We are capable of sitting with our shadow selves until we understand our truth. We are capable of that level of resilience. There's a peace that comes with balancing our light and our dark. The flame from a Black candle, a beacon of hope. That is pivotal to creating the internal resilience needed to continue our work towards community change, social change, institutional change, and maybe a whole world that functions as beloved community. This is our collective work. In case you haven't guessed, I'm not easy at parties. I don't do small talk, preferring to camp out on couches or in bar booths, yelling about injustice and planning how we are going to fix the world. Just ask my friends. No one comes to me for small talk. So the big talk challenge that I've given myself is to leave you with something small, something that requires no meetings, no committees or task forces. What inspiration can I send you away with? Just this. Celebrate Kwanzaa with one of your Black community members. You're already doing that this year by inviting me as a guest in your virtual pulpit. Buy Black. You could make a point to observe 7 days of financially supporting Black members of your community, whatever that means to you. Alternatively, turn your gaze toward Black folks in our faith. Our stories are wildly varied. Listen to your Black siblings, coworkers, neighbors, community members with the same depth and quality of attention that you're sharing with me. Know, trust that your attentive silence is enough. Lastly, amplify those voices. Share a tweet, a post, a virtual sermon, hymn, or resource that's brought you joy. Institutional change is as much about celebrating as it is about policy. Listen, my Kwanzaa is about centering Black joy. 2 years ago, a judge unexpectedly granted me the end to a very long, very complicated divorce process. Kwanzaa miracle. Last year, I was unexpectedly given the opportunity to spend the December holidays with my child. Kwanzaa miracle. This Kwanzaa has gifted me with rest, meaningful connection with my BIPOC UU family, a secondhand pair of boots to replace my originals, and connection to y'all, my now siblings, who were just strangers 2 hours ago. And that is a Kwanzaa miracle. That is a source of joy. And that is enough.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle around to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time.
spiritual takeaway is this: light your candles, sing your songs, take your moments of rest, feed your soul, and feed your community. Listen to the news, your neighbors, to Black folks, and then, with eyes wide open, choose joy.
Thank you all for being with us today, and I hope you will all return next week when we'll celebrate the light of the Epiphany, the last service in our Season of Light celebrations. Ayanna, thank you so much for being with us today, and not only for your informative, but for your inspiring and challenging and uplifting message. Thank you for bringing us Kwanzaa, but more for challenging our UU world to build that diverse and inclusive and multicultural and anti-racist community of faith that we can be, for challenging us to lead in love, and for recognizing that our liberation is indeed bound up in one another. Thank you. If you are new to our fellowship, I would like to invite you again this week to meet with me and a couple of our hospitality folks so we can get to know you and you us a bit. So if you are a newcomer and would like to come to that gathering, don't select a breakout room right away. Just hold on and you'll stay in the main room with me and others. Ayanna has graciously agreed to join us for our virtual coffee hour. She will appear in one of the breakout rooms and then in the main room when we all come back together. And now we will extinguish the flame, but not the light of our chalice, not the light of this season, not the light of Kwanzaa. Those we carry with us as a guide to help us both go deeper within and at the same time to reach out to our community in the world with the principles and values of which the candles of Kwanzaa and the flaming chalice represent. We bring the light to our faith to shine on a world so much in need of light. We move forward in the light, with the light. We carry the light to others. Siyahamba, Kukanyenkwe Kos. We are marching in the light of God.